Good morning. Hi, everyone. Hello, I'm Emily Hamill. I'm the CEO of Brightside Marketing, and I'm really excited to talk with you guys today about a challenge that every gym operator is facing, lead conversion. So we've all hopefully seen it by now. We've got thousands of leads that are coming in from Facebook ads, from Google searches, from referrals, but far too many of those leads are not converting into paying members. So the truth is, and I never thought I'd actually say this, generating leads is not the hard part anymore. Converting them is, and that's what today's panel is all about. So why is this such a pressing issue today? Well, here's what the data tells us. Speed wins the sale. Studies show that leads that are contacted within 5 minutes are 100 times more likely to convert than those that are contacted after 30 minutes. Consumers expect immediate engagement. We know this, right? 78% of gym leads sign up with the first club that follows up. So we know that consumers today, they expect personalized interactions. We're getting our Amazon deliveries. We have chatbots that are answering our questions immediately. So if your gym is not responding quickly, your competitor is. Retention starts at the first interaction. So millions of dollars in the gym industry are actually wasted on ad spend due to poor follow-up. We know that member retention doesn't start after the sale. It actually begins the moment someone expresses interest in your gym. So if that first interaction is generic or disorganized, your potential member is already becoming disengaged even before they set foot in the door. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm really excited to introduce today's panelists. We're going to do a deep dive into this conversation. These are leaders who have faced those challenges firsthand, and they've successfully adopted new technology, new processes to improve their lead conversion. So first, I'd like to introduce Chad Smith, president of Las Vegas Athletic Clubs. He is a 40-year industry leader and veteran. He's leading LVAC's digital transformation, including a shift to all new digital tracking tools, a new lead management software, and automation system. I've also got Brett Livingstone here. He is CEO of NorCal Fitness and Thrive, which owns and operates Anytime Fitnesses and Basecamp Fitnesses in Northern California. And Brett has built a portfolio of really high-performing clubs, so his Anytime locations are actually ranking in the top 2% nationwide. And we also have Val Nepomuceno here. He's Director of Operations for Club 24 in Connecticut. He's a Rex member and a longtime user of sales automation. He's actually upgrading his current system for more efficiency. So now that we've kind of outlined the challenges, let's take a step back and let's talk about the roadblocks that made these panelists realize that something had to change. So before we can talk about the solutions, let's make sure that we understand the problem. And Chad, let's start with you. LVAC has been incredibly successful for decades, but even as a brand as established as yours, you knew that you needed to rethink your lead management process. What were the challenges that really pushed you to implementation?
Well, traditionally, over the years, we've built that brand based on TV, radio, newspaper, even yellow pages, believe it or not, for a lot of the younger people here. And when you did a TV ad back in the day, you would run the ad, your phone would ring. You had to know how to deal with that phone call. You had your scripts on how to handle the TI, but those times have changed. Right now, the TVs do not make your phone ring as much. It usually pushes people to your websites, and you'll usually have your form feeds there. So the process that your operations uses in order to be able to handle those leads when they come in, as Emily mentioned, you really have to answer it within 5 minutes. Does your staff have the ability to answer it in 5 minutes? If they're doing a tour in the club, pretty hard for them to get on top of that. So we actually noticed in the beginning, it was like a couple hours before people would get back to the leads. And the longer it takes, I think originally we were only contacting about 80% of the leads, because by the time we got back to them, they were already gone. So you had to figure out a new process and how to do it. And you wanted to be sure all of your salespeople were consistent, and you had to have a way that you can measure it to see how long it was taking for them to actually follow up on it. Because when you pay that much money to actually acquire that lead, you don't want it to be wasted. So that's kind of the main steps as far as how to create a workflow in automation, how to manage the employees to actually follow up on those leads. And now it's starting to go into the whole AI world, which you are actually even better. You know, a lot of times people are talking about AI, but most of the stuff isn't even necessary for AI. Most of the things will happen through your workflows that you're actually building in your automations through your CRM. Yes, the AI will make it more personalized or customized for the individual in the long run, but you still have to be sure that workflow is tight and your entire team supports that workflow through your CRMs.
Very good. Brett, as a multi-unit franchise owner with Anytime and Basecamp, you've had to manage lead flows across multiple locations. So what were some of the biggest pain points that you experienced along the way when it came to tracking those leads and ensuring you had consistent follow-up across multiple locations?
Pain points, huh? How much time do I get with this one? I boiled it down to a handful, but let me say a couple of things first. I'm kind of an odd duck in that I just love this lead conversion topic. I think about it all the time. It keeps me up at night. On some level, within my clubs, we're talking about it every day. We break down why we didn't land things. We evaluate why we did land things. So this lead conversion topic is kind of near and dear to my heart. Number two, I have been traveling an incredible amount in this past month. We opened a new club last week. I have not been home in a month. My wife contracted COVID and has since recovered COVID. I wasn't even home to see her. So I need some grace from you guys. I've got some organized notes here, and I'm going to get through them. But I may be referring to them every once in a while, so bear with me a bit. But pain points, I boiled it down to a couple. Managing lead volume efficiently. You referred to it. Chad also referred to it. I mean, the stage has changed. It's our leads are coming in different methods now. The digital channels, the social media, the automatic referrals, whatever the case may be. Just know that we're getting more leads now. They may be of less quality, but we're getting more leads now. And how to manage those processes and everything. Speed is everything, as you referenced in your introduction. And I had not heard that stat. I have heard similar stats, but oh my gosh, if we can't get to them in 5 minutes, we're almost out the door. And without automation or structured lead management, then that's going to be that's going to be impossible to manage in that respect. Most club owners like myself assume that their teams are following up on these leads. But if there's not a structured process, I even see some heads nodding out there. If there's not a structured process of real-time reporting and automation, the likelihood is it's not being handled very well, or that it could be improved. And then lead quality, it's hard to talk about conversion without first backing up a step to the lead quality. We all probably, unless you're a real premium price club, we probably all run the same ads, something around low barrier to entry and then get them to paying full price as soon as we possibly can. Does this sound familiar? First week free, join for $1. I mean, we all do some version of this. I can see a lot of heads nodding over that one. But we came up with something a couple years back called the generational cheat code. And the idea behind that is that, you know, when I was in my 20s, I didn't want to be marketed to and spoken to as if I was in my 50s. And now that I'm in my 50s, I don't want to be marketed to and spoken to as if I was in my 20s, right? So with every ad that we have, we break it down into different generational segments, 18 to 30, 30 to 45, 45 to 60, and 60 plus. And we talk to all those groups differently. I'll give you a couple of examples. 18 to 30-year-olds, they want to be entertained. They expect seamless technology, quick bullet points, transparent pricing. But 45 to 60-year-olds are looking for expertise, experience, professionalism, maybe just what's going on in the club, the experience of the, there's kind of the member experiences in the club. So we have to craft our ads to those people specifically. So if you're not aligning your marketing with these different age groups, you're just kind of falling behind in that respect.
Very good. So Val, we know that Club 24 was an early adopter of automation, but now you're making some changes. What challenges did you encounter with your first setup that kind of prompted you to move into optimizing your approach?
So we have 7 locations, 7 different towns, 7 different demographics. So right off the bat, we had a current CRM that wasn't able to distinct those people specifically. And that caused more manual work to get to there. So that's kind of where we also figured out misleads were not going into the buckets that they were supposed to. So that caused more manual work that took time away from us reaching out to different peoples, where they had to now tailor the communication based on them. Now, texting wouldn't get the automation that we had set prompt, or emails, phone calls. Everything we had set up originally would be missed in those buckets. So those were our pain points big time, and that's kind of what transitioned our move to our new CRM.
All right, thank you guys. All right, so now we talked a lot about the challenges. So what's actually working, right? Let's dive into the shift of technology and automation strategies. What's working in terms of driving better lead conversion? When I was talking with Val a couple weeks ago, we were kind of going through the process of adopting a new CRM, adopting these new automation tools, and I was asking, of all the different providers out there, who were you looking at? How were you vetting and making these decisions? And he said something very insightful. He said, I had to start with strategy, not software. And I love that because it's so easy for us to be turned on by these really new technologies, new softwares, and seeing that, oh, this could work great with my gym. But if you don't map out a proper strategy first, that's where you find this software might fall short. So Val, I know you emphasized the importance of that. I would love for you just to kind of lean into that. Tell us a little bit about what were some of those strategies and top priorities for you when you decided which software partner you wanted to work with.
So the first thing is you got to create your map, your workflow of the mapped everything. Knowing exactly when are they going to get contacted, about all different types of channels, and then kind of figuring out from there what those pain points were going to be. We had to do this extra work on this end, so forth. Because at the end of the day, the biggest priority is kind of what Chad and what Emily has stated here, speed. That contact fills out that form, get in contact with them ASAP. So the automations had to be point on that. And then whatever the outcome of that conversation became, that's kind of where we would know what the interests are, and then set them up to come into the club based on those interests to kind of convert them immediately. But I would say speed for sure when those leads come in, but also know exactly where your workflows are. A lot of people always have that assumption, oh, this is how it goes, X, Y, Z. But you'd be surprised that you're probably missing a lot of different things, components of it. So having a detailed workflow of every type of lead inquiry, walk-in, prospect that does online, telephones, you name it, having that guideline for you.
So Chad, one thing I wanted to just ask you a little bit more about is you mentioned in one of our conversations when you are thinking about software partners and you're thinking about that automation process and workflows, you referred to it as a feedback tool, which is something I hadn't heard of before. I always thought of automation as a way to simplify process, to get in contact with my leads, to enable the sales team, but you're looking at it as a way to get real-time feedback. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that works?
Sure. This is kind of the fun one because we want to be able to get a feedback loop from the top of the funnel all the way to the bottom, and then build that feedback loop back into the decision making for your media buy. And to connect all these dots from that very first time that form is filled out to the time that who answered it, how quickly did they answer it, how did it show up in the club as a show, a guest tour, was it booked as a calendar event, did they close it, what type of membership did they actually purchase? Was it a lower tier membership or was it an upper tier? Once we can actually do that, we can establish a return on our investment for every dollar that we spend. And then that information would loop back around and help our buying decision when we do our new buy. So if I asked most of you in here, if you're responsible for the marketing or the advertising, how many of you have advertising budgets? Do any of you have advertising budgets? Okay, I've instructed with Emily, I go, I do not want a budget. I want to open the valve. As long as we can show a return on our investment and that cost for our lead acquisition is within the parameters, I'm going to keep pumping money in. Because if every time I spend $1,000, I'm getting $20,000 out of it, why would I limit myself with a budget? Well, you can only do that if you tie in all these data points and you build the feedback loop, which I've been really gifted to work with Emily on this because Emily understands what I want to do. She understands the health club business, but she understands the data and the code and what she's looking for on a level that I can't even comprehend. So I may dream it. She actually gives us actionable items. She'll talk to the IT department. She'll work with the data. She goes into these databases and tells everybody what they need to do. So we're actually building this dynamic feedback loop for the first time. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
That's great. Thank you, Chad. I think that's such an important point, too, just in terms of we're all looking at these KPIs around the number of clicks we're receiving, the number of leads we're generating, our cost per lead, our cost per acquisition. But if we're not feeding that data back to our marketing team, if we're not feeding that data back to our marketing partners, we're selling ourselves short in the sense that you could be spending more and getting a better return. You could be generating more members, but it's so easy for us to say, okay, our budget for the month is $10,000. Let's see what happens. But if we know that we can generate 20, 30% more leads and still stay within that ideal range for your cost per lead and your cost per acquisition, we would want to increase our budget. The only way that's possible is with visibility, right? To see the data, to see in real time, okay, when I turn this lever on with Google or I turn this lever on with Facebook, my cost per lead, it decreases. My cost per acquisition stays within a positive range. So if we don't have those good feedback loops built, that's pretty impossible, right? I'm going to ask you another question, Chad. Sorry. This is around your search for automation tools and technology partners. What were some of the most critical factors or features that you looked for, and what red flags did you avoid?
Okay, well, probably the most important, the term that I use a lot is friction. Yes. There's friction in the process the whole way through, whether it's your IT department, whether it's your operations and the salespeople. There's these different pain points that create friction in the process. So you have to look at when you're bringing on a CRM system, what kind of friction is it going to create in our main system? What kind of friction is it going to create with operations? Our chief operating officer is here, and I'll say, Brian, here's what we need to do. And we're looking at what friction it's going to create with your sales staff, with your front desk people, and you have to be sure that you're not actually adding pain points by adding these elements. You're actually minimizing them and reducing the friction. So we go through each one of the areas to figure out ahead of time what kind of friction, can we minimize it? What can we do before we release whatever this thing is to get a lot of that friction out of the process? So we've had issues with different people that we've tried that only added more steps to the process rather than simplifying the process. So you have to be aware of that. Dig deep into your partners and see which one is going to make it more complicated. That's just adding different steps to the process rather than simplifying and making your team more effective.
Thank you. Val, you talked a lot about that just in terms of having good partners is wonderful when you can automate things, and it takes a lot off of the plate of your sales team. It takes a lot off the plate of your marketing team. But what you find with a lot of partners I know you in particular have worked with is it actually created more manual tasks. So as opposed to having a simple workflow set up, then you were finding there was more elements in club that you had to deal with to work with these partners. So can you tell us a little bit about like the critical steps or best practices to ensure when you did roll out those new technologies, new CRMs, how did you make sure that your team wasn't feeling that friction?
So we have an advantage. We're locally owned, so we don't have any people telling us how to do certain things. So with 7 locations, anytime we consider any different partners, we choose one location to roll it out at. And they are kind of the test dummies on it. They play around with it, utilize it in every different aspect. And the main reason why is so they can have suggestions of, hey, how can this be improved? Find out the broken parts. And mainly, break it is the biggest thing. I want you to use this system until it gets broken. And then that way we know, okay, we have to roll back or talk to the company as well. But every decision we make is based on our frontline people and our managers. They're using it day to day. It's not what I choose because it looks cool and it has everything I want, but it has to be directly applied to so they can continue making money, producing those memberships and getting those leads that they want. So their main reason is break the system. And then that way we know, okay, we'll give you guys a shot in the other 6 locations. If not, we'll just go to a different CRM and try that out and to find out who is going to be the next partner for us.
All right, Brett, so technology only works when your teams embrace it. What tactic was most effective in getting all of your different locations and your teams to really embrace and adopt new technology? And I ask because I know we've got so many operators and owners that struggle with legacy systems or legacy ways of doing things, right? When something's not broken, why fix it? So it can be hard. It can be hard to get change adopted and to sell that into all of your locations. What was your approach there?
I'm going to oversimplify this answer and say get your staff involved in the development of it, and get them involved early. So if you get their buy-in and not force this down their throat, so to speak, then everything's going to be much more effective. And as they understand that automation is there to help them, not just another system that they have to manage, then they're going to be far more willing to engage and be productive with it. I'm also going to oddly go a different direction here with peer accountability. We do some unique things within our clubs in that all of our clubs know the performance metrics of all of the other clubs. So if general manager of location A is struggling with fitness consultation booking, for example, and they see that general manager of location B is particularly adept at this, then they'll reach out together, collaborate. They might even pull them over to help train their staff. So having that peer accountability kind of component to it helps things too. Looking ahead, as an industry, we need to shift from just tracking data to making data more actionable within our clubs, certainly. And the clubs that leverage automation as a coaching and strategy tool will be the ones that are going to be striving in the future.
Very good. All right, so let's transition to the future of lead conversion and fitness. We've talked a lot about automation and technology, how they're reshaping lead conversion, but what about tomorrow? The topic certainly of HFA this year is AI. We've talked a lot about that. But we're going to take a step back. We're going to talk a little bit about AI. We're going to talk about understanding the customer journey. And we're going to talk about what these leaders and what these operators are focused on over the next 12 months. Like, where are their sights set? What have they learned during HFA? What are some of the key takeaways in terms of the new technology, the implementations of the future? So, Brett, we're going to start with you. We know that AI and machine learning, right? Big topic, are definitely changing the way that gyms engage in leads. However, we know that hyper-personalization experiences are critical. So how do you see AI helping fitness operators optimize those lead nurtures?
Boy, we could spend the next hour talking about AI, and I think some of these other, there's been some other presentations there. AI is going to, boy, I just took a class, ironically, that ended about a month ago from UC Berkeley, an online course about AI in business. And our capstone project was to pull in some form of AI into your company. And we can stay after later and talk about that if you care to. But there are a couple of things that kind of stuck out to me as I was going through that process, where AI, I think, is going to benefit us most in the future, at least initially. AI is going to help us kind of, sort out what leads are best first and deliver them to our salespeople and such. So imagine this. You've got a couple different leads that are coming in. One of the leads has filled out a form, went through your website, maybe downloaded a video, whatever the case may be, looked at your pricing structure, and lead B has just filled out a form and hasn't engaged with you otherwise. So AI will have the ability to kind of sort and prioritize that and send the ones that are hotter, if you will, to your sales force and be able to benefit from that. AI also personalizes the follow-ups. Give you another example. If somebody logs into your site and starts watching a video about, say, strength training, AI could possibly start serving them up with information about strength training that's specific to them, like maybe some workouts that are specific to them or testimonies from members who also have those same interests, right? Say another lead is a busy professional. Maybe AI would send them information about express workouts or flexible scheduling and not tie them down with the information that they're not looking for. It's kind of personalizing its effect. Sorry, thank you. You want to go through all that again? Back from the beginning. Personalization isn't just about what it's said, but how it's delivered. Some people respond better to text, some people respond better to emails, some people respond better to calls. AI will be able to sort that out and kind of optimize for us. Lastly, AI knows the right time to kind of reach out. So as they analyze your habits when you may be looking at our website, maybe reaching out to us, we'll also counter with reaches back to you during those specific timeframes. Some people spend maybe their lunch hour or after work or whatever the case may be. I know that in the olden days, as we tried to just call and follow up on leads, it would just be all times during the day. And reaching somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning can be damn near impossible. So AI is going to help us out with that. Looking ahead, the future lead conversion is about automation. It's about intelligence in general. And in a world where potential members are already doing their own research before even stepping foot into their gym, if we can personalize that experience with some sort of AI interaction, I think we're going to be better off for it.
I want to spend a second kind of going back to your first point there about AI prioritizing best leads first. Is anyone in here familiar with using intent data for marketing purposes or for lead follow-up? So essentially what that is it's AI, it's an algorithm that's been built that helps to identify where someone is on the intent scale, meaning how soon they're likely to buy. So for example, the algorithm might say that someone who is within a day or two of purchasing a gym membership, they follow these specific behaviors. They visit 12 web pages, they click on 3 forms, they fill out their information for 2 different gyms, they Google, best gym price near me, they visit pricing pages. That's what you would call like a 10 on the intent scale. They're ready to buy. AI also tells us who is maybe a 1. So this is someone who has a consideration set of 9 or 10 different gyms. They're exploring different pricing pages. They're conducting Google searches around different types of amenities and features at gyms, but they're not quite ready to buy. So if we use this data, this intent data, in our marketing and we use it in our lead follow-up process, it helps us to figure out who's hot, who's ready to buy, who is going to be my priority for lead outreach versus someone who's going to need a little bit more nurturing. So using that intent data in our marketing helps us also figure out where do I want to put my money. If I know that someone's a 10 or a 9 on the intent scale, I want to devote more resources to marketing them, to following up with them immediately, to prioritizing my promotional messaging versus someone who might need a little bit more time to learn about the gym, the facility, your classes, and things like that. So I just want to emphasize the importance there of being able to layer now in that intent data in our marketing process. So thank you, Brett. That's a really great point. Sure. Oh, there you go. Just make sure you're.
You talked about the intent.
Yes.
Because we've actually, with Emily's help, we've actually decreased our acquisition costs incredibly. But you talk about lookalike audiences. Can you explain to everybody how you use the lookalike audience in order to bring our acquisition costs down so low?
Sure. Okay, so the panelist is asking the moderator questions now. Okay, so let's talk about lookalike audiences. Has anyone used lookalike audiences? Yeah, I'm seeing some some head nods. Okay, so the beautiful thing about a lookalike audience is there's AI and technology within the platforms, within Google, within Facebook now, where you take your membership data and you can upload your membership data and say, this is my member, this is what they look like. I want you to go find people that resemble them out in the metasphere, out on Google, and I want you to serve my ads to them. Prioritize them because I know they resemble my member. Well, the beauty of that is it definitely cuts your advertising costs, but what a lot of operators and what a lot of marketing teams miss is the segmentation that should come before you use lookalike audiences. So you can upload your entire membership database directly into Facebook, and that's wonderful, it's effective. Or you can break that membership list down based on who are your high value customers and say, I want to build a lookalike audience around this audience. These are the people that are buying my premier, my platinum level memberships. These are the people that are purchasing my personal training sessions. These are the people that are sticking around. They've been members now for multiple years. I've gotten high value out of this person. I want someone who looks like this. And what we do is we say, okay, we've got our low value members. These are people kind of churn and burn. They feed the beast. We keep them coming in, but we also have our group of members that are really going to make us money. They're more profitable. And you advertise based on who is high value. So we'll spend more money on a high value member. We might have a slightly higher cost per lead. We might have a slightly higher cost per acquisition, but we know we're going to get that return. So it makes sense for us. Then we also have our low value members where we want to keep our CPL down to a minimum. We want our CPAs down to a minimum as well because we know they're likely going to leave after 6 months and we're going to have to win them back this time next year when they're interested in another gym membership. Good? Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of refreshing to hear that because there's so many marketing companies. I know we're not here to just promote one marketing company necessarily, but there are so many marketing companies that wash their hands after they look at lead cost and not look all the way through to member acquisition cost. And if we incorporate some of these ideas in AI and look-alike customers and all that, then as you brought up so appropriately, bringing the cost of acquisition down is what's important to me.
All right, let's talk a little bit about first-party data. This is actually in line with lookalike audiences. We know that privacy regulations are changing. I'm sure all of you have faced this. We've talked about Google and Facebook moving to a cookieless future. The ability to track our customers now has become so much more limited. So how can we as operators prepare to use our own first-party data?
Well, first you have to start acquiring it. You know, I heard a seminar a couple days ago actually here, and they used a term that I hadn't really heard used it that way before, but they talked about lead intelligence. They had their lead hook, and then they had lead intelligence. And what is that lead intelligence? When you get that lead, what kind of information do you want to get from that lead that allows you to communicate more effectively with them, more efficiently? How do you store that data? And then how do you use that data in the feedback loop in order to be able to increase your acquisitions? So that's a huge thing. It seemed like even one of the earlier questions about who do we partner with? Well, when you partner with someone, you want to be sure you control your data. You own your data, you warehouse your data in an environment that you can control. We had one partner years ago that said, don't worry, it's in a mutual holding area container that we have the data. When it came down to it, we were not able to get the data back. So you want to be sure that you hold that data. I was talking to a couple of the guys that are building AI tools out there. And the same thing as I asked them, and they weren't able to give me real clarity, but maybe someone in here knows. But when you're using AI, a lot of them will use open source AI that they bring in within their environment. But how much of the AI is going out to the metasphere to actually look at the information for you? Once that information goes out to the metasphere, you've lost control of that data. Now, ChatGPT has that data and owns that data the same way. So as you start using the AI tools, how are you going to protect that data the same way? So you've got to think it through, and a lot of people out there that are working with it, they don't even fully grasp. They go, well, it's kind of a gray area. We're still working on that, what that data is going to look like. So you have to be very difficult. Capture as much data, house it internally, let them maybe have limited access to that data, but that data is going to be one of your most valuable tool or one of your most valuable assets you're going to have. So think a few moves ahead on what people could be doing it. How I know that somebody was starting to use their Excel files and running it through AI to find out some understanding from their own spreadsheets. Well, now that AI tool out there in the metasphere has all of your spreadsheets and it has the information as well. So you really want to be careful with how you manage, how you track, and then start thinking ahead how you gather that data.
Good. Val, let's talk a little bit more about conversational AI and conversational marketing. So a big topic over HFA in the last 24 hours has been DMs and chatbots using AI conversationally. We know more and more consumers are kind of are bypassing those traditional forms of communication. They don't want to be on the phone. I want to say I read that SMS open rates are like 98% versus email open rates are around 20%. So knowing this, how are you preparing your sales teams and how are you handling training and rolling out of SMSs and chatbots? How does that look for you in the future?
So again, it comes down to finding the right partner that can kind of help out with that aspect. But yeah, that's a true fact right there. Text is replacing emails. And again, with us being a 24-hour gym, we're not always there at the computers to answer these messaging. So with AI help, that's where we get the personalized messaging out to them. Because with that, you got 3 o'clock in the morning, someone's on our website trying to ask a question or trying to fill out a form. And that's where the AI will start talking to them based on what they're asking or questions-wise and so forth. But it's evolved big time compared to phone calls. Like we still get phone calls. I think everyone still gets phone calls. So we're implementing AI to take those conversations and answer those, hey, what's your club enhancement fees? Or what's your hours? And then if they want to be directed to our front desk, that's a one-click button and it gets forwarded. And that's where we get them inside to the gym and book them more tours, especially when someone fills out a lead form. They want the responses instantly. So having the AI capabilities of the second they click send, hey, thanks for inquiring. We'd love to invite you to the gym, regardless of the hours. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't, yes, hours, certain states have different laws regarding that, but get them into your doors is the biggest thing. And with AI, it's evolving and changing every single day. So it's very important to stay up in the news, learning that, and learning every different aspect that can help improve your business big time.
That's great. Val was also telling me how he has been training his sales teams to reply and be more comfortable in a DM setting as opposed to a phone setting. So on the phone, they've got, 4 or 5 minutes to have a conversation, tell them about the gym, handle objections, but now you've got, 100 characters where you're trying to respond to an inquiry. So he's been training, kind of rolling out, here's how we manage DMs, here's how we respond to text messages, here's what our selling process looks like, getting people more comfortable, even grammar, knowing that this is, these guys are used to having very casual conversations, but when you're in the DM space, when you're in the texting space, everything you say is essentially public record now, right? So it's so easy for them to do screenshots and share that. So their grammar has to be appropriate. The way that they respond has to be casual, but also fit for, booking visits. So it's a whole new world. Okay. This is our final question, and we'll open the floor up for some questions. But I asked the guys if there's one thing that gym owners and operators should start doing today to improve their lead conversion and future-proof their business, what would it be? Chad, we'll start with you.
I would probably say it's the speed in the way that you respond, the efficiency in the way that you respond to that, the speed that you read that information and make adjustments. As you get feedback when you do A/B testing, I'm sure a lot of you do A/B testing. How dynamic is that? How quickly do you respond to the A/B testing and make the adjustments? Because things change each day. Even if there's something out there in the news cycle, people respond to different words differently, different images differently. You've got to be sure how to read the information, respond quickly, and everything comes down to the efficiency and the speed that you do it.
Brett, if you still think that human interaction cannot be bested by AI, maybe it's time to kind of reframe that and start rethinking about that again. I don't think that AI in the near future is going to necessarily replace the human touch, but it's going to augment it, and it's going to make us more efficient and easier to manage it. And the clubs that are adopting these AI technologies now will be the ones that will be leading us in the future.
Meet people where they come from. If it's DMs, text messaging, emails, or even a phone call, be quick to answer those, because that's a person that's shopping around. Get them into your doors first versus your competitors.
All right, thank you. I would say one of my key takeaways, just having worked in this industry for a while and being involved with a number of different owners and operators, is the importance of the handoff and the relationship between sales and marketing. So I think before it was such an easy, marketing is responsible for generating leads, and then take it from there. If you're the sales team, it's your job to sell them, it's your job to get them in the door. But now the entire world has changed, where marketing and sales need to work seamlessly together. There needs to be feedback from the sales team telling us these are qualified leads, these are not. The sales team needs to be trained to understand how to read and bring in this marketing data. The marketing team needs to understand what works and how to make a frictionless experience for the sales team. So I think over the past year or so, I would say that's probably been the biggest takeaway for me, is just making sure that your sales and marketing teams are really working together and collaborating. Okay, so now I think we've covered a lot, but let's open up the floor. Does anyone have any questions for any of our panelists? Yeah.
When you were speaking
It is. It's one of those things that you have to be sure the other portion, the funnel coming in, is working correctly. But the whole thing with retention is a whole new area. We sat in on a couple of the things here regarding retention, and there's really no huge big pieces of wisdom out there on how to make that retention go. I know that they recently said yesterday that one of the things that they actually look at the retention helping the most is your cost. The engagement, you're going to find it suffers. We don't get the engagement in our industry that you want. We have tried lots of things to move the needle on that. We haven't seen a whole lot of movement, substantial movement, but they have found that, and I think that the Rex Forum gave that data yesterday, that it's the price, that they thought that the high volume, low price people would be the less sticky in the system, and that the higher price, the premium payers, would be more sticky and stay there more. They found out it was just the opposite, that price to make it affordable to keep them connected, because people, if you're not engaging, and unfortunately, it's human nature. Not everybody sticks to what they set out to do. When you look at the attrition each year, it's very high turnover. I had the president of our local university saying, wow, you really have a high drop-off, Chad, as far as your health club business. And it's like, yeah, well, how many people are graduating from your college? And it was like 50%. It's like some insane. If everybody had the ability to stay consistent and engage with everything that they want to do, we would all be ripped, lean jungle cats. We'd all have PhDs. Have PhDs. We'd be the most successful people on the face of the planet. Be something that always becomes testing. Test, measure, test, measure. If you find something that you actually see moves the needle a lot, repeat it. Keep going. But it's about testing and measuring, quantifying it. Don't always rely on your gut. Sometimes our gut does not work that well. If you ask most pilots, they never rely on their own gut or their own faculties. You have to watch the instruments. And when you're reading this kind of stuff, you got to pay attention to the instruments, and that is the data.
Let me add another quick piece to that, if I can. I think retention starts with the marketing to get the person in there in the first place. And the rest of that, I agree with everything else. We test, measure, et cetera. All of our frontline salespeople, all of our staff, all of our coaches, quite frankly, know what our retention factors are, and they know our average stay length. They know what an average member value is for their life. They have that in each one of those clubs. We talk about it every month, and they enact things to try and improve it.
And just to one additional point on that feedback loop, like as you're building that out and you're starting to look at your retention data, I would just caution you with one thing. If you make any adjustments to your contract duration, your pricing, make sure that you include those factors, because they're going to influence that feedback loop and how you analyze what was effective on the front end. That's what I'm seeing with a lot of what we've been building is a lot of operators have changed from long-term contracts to month, or they've introduced annual fees, and that influences your retention data more than the marketing on the front end, right? So just be cautious of that as you're starting to build those feedback loops. Sorry, one question here, go ahead.
Put my coaching voice on. So I think primarily we're looking at kind of that first conversion, like that lead form or lead entry point into maybe an intro offer might be that first thing that someone's coming in on. I'd love to know kind of your workflows or how you handle that next level conversion, right? So someone's come in, maybe it's a personal training session they got, maybe it's a free class, maybe it's a 14-day trial. What are the best practices or the handoffs you're seeing from the team that's now interacting with that person, gathering information on that person, essentially that lead intelligence that's happening actually in person, not digitally, and how is that coming back into that sales process and then maybe back into the marketing?
I'll speak from a marketing perspective and someone who builds out the workflows. So we have, I would say, probably like 12 to 15 workflows that are on the front end. So that's that first conversion, just trying to get them to get in the door and have, book a tour or whatever it is. On the back end, so after we've either secured them as a member or we have that, that commitment to coming in, we have about 30 to 45 workflows. And we're using data like their preferences that were gathered during the tour. So what did they like? What amenities were they most interested in? And we're using that to build workflows that help to keep them engaged and to help upsell. So for example, if someone comes in and they do a one club membership, but we know during the tour they expressed interest in childcare. We make a note of that in their properties within your CRM, and that allows us, right, to follow up and say, hey, we know that this might be something that's good for you. Did you know we've got an elevated membership? It's on promotion right now. We'd love to see you back in the club. Or if we're running PT promotions for someone who on the tour expressed that maybe they have trouble with weight loss or weight, whatever it might be. So yes, using those data points to have a really smart build of that person's profile is critical, and setting up your workflows so you're not doing that manually is key.
I just find that's where I see a lot of breakdown happen. The lead comes in, and then now there's a handoff, and now that information's got to get back to either the sales team or something like that.
Yeah. And just to add to that, that's kind of where training the sales team to kind of grab that manual element and to input it like Emily said, because that's kind of where you'll miss out. But you could also have AI, depending on your CRM, kind of grab those information. Hey, they only check in around this time. Hey, they started taking these classes. And then that's kind of where you can have those different workflows of, hey, start sending them some messaging for PT deals or group classes and so forth.
We've had some pretty fun times because Emily will actually break it and put it into the workflows, but we have very large whiteboards, and we start building these workflows on the whiteboard saying, okay, where do we want to go from here? What other data points do we want to have? What can we use with that? So that becomes this real fun looking device, and then from there you actually have to implement it into the workflow, and that's where you need the technical side to really know how to do it and be sure it ties into the feedback loop.
Any other questions? No? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time today. If you want to connect, I'll put my QR code up there on the board. But thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.